South Dakota Republican senator, very big deal in leadership, John Thune. Senator, very good to have you. What do you make of this effort the president is targeting? So far, the Chinese and the South Koreans for different reasons, different areas, but some are fearing that this could escalate. Are you?
Well, I guess I'm not entirely comfortable anytime, Neil, that you're talking about, tariffs and retaliatory actions taken on trade. I think America gains and we continue to open markets. I understand it's complicated with China because there is so much dumping that they do, and there are remedies within our trade laws that allow us in some cases to impose tariffs on some of these products that they're guilty of dumping on our market. So I get the industry by industry concerns that get raised, but I think as a general matter, we want to have open trade. We want everybody we want to have same access to the other markets around the world that they have to ours. We're the most open market in the world, and I hope that our administration is looking at ways to expand and grow opportunities for American businesses and farmers and ranchers, and not get us into this tit-for-tat trade war with some of these countries, even China, who is oftentimes very guilty of the things that they're accused of.
But they will probably respond, either or both of those countries, and it could spread to other countries like Mexico and Canada, similarly concerned about the way we're approaching this. Are you getting worried?
Well, I'm concerned that I think Canada just entered into TPP. We were going to be a part of that agreement.
I wish Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Trans-Pacific Partnership. Correct. I wish we had been a part of that. Those 12 nations represent about 40% of the world's GDP, and if we're not in there, somebody else is going to be. And the administration has assured us that if we're not going to be part of these multilateral trade agreements, that they're going to be negotiating bilateral trade agreements. But frankly, we're not seeing a lot of evidence of that. And I'm concerned about where the administration sounds like they're headed on trade. We're very concerned about the idea of withdrawing from NAFTA. That would be a big mistake for American businesses.
Meanwhile, Senator, I want to switch gears a little bit back to the press conference. I got a sense from the Sanders on the issue of whatever immigration pacts they're considering right now, that they're a long way from resolving this issue in the 3 weeks they have to do so. She referred to, obviously, the Flake Graham-Durbin sort of middle ground position. They deem it middle ground as unacceptable, so that's going to go nowhere. Do you think that this could just blow up again in 3 weeks?
I think if it does, what will happen is Senator McConnell's basically agreed that he'll put a bill on the floor, a base bill, and then he'll open it up to the amendment process, in which case we could produce a bill that gets 60 votes in the Senate that can't pass the House. That's why I think it's really important that this bicameral, bipartisan group that's negotiating right now gets forward.
What do you think of that 60 vote issue? The president said make it a simple majority, explore the nuclear option. Mitch McConnell doesn't like the idea. How about you?
I think it's short-sighted. I really think in the long run, we ought to be able on some of these big consequential issues to get enough Democrats to vote with us. Now, clearly, where the government shutdown was concerned, the Democrats obstructed. They obstructed on tax reform. They've obstructed on confirmations. I'm hoping that attitude is going to change, and I think we'll find out very soon in this immigration debate. But I think that the 60-vote threshold in the Senate is something that protects the rights of the minority. It's been used significantly and in a meaningful way by Republicans, and we're in the minority, and we're in the minority more often than we're in the majority. So I think you have to look long and hard before you start going to sort of an extreme measure like that. But it is important, in my view, that as much as we can get started right away, jumpstart these negotiations, and hopefully produce a consensus bill that can get 60 votes in the Senate, but also pass the House and get signed into law by the president.
Something seems to be falling apart, though, Senator. The reason I mentioned is Chuck Schumer has already revoked a deal to consider funding for that border wall, something that he had signed on to when I guess he met with the president, had offered. What do you make of that?
Well, first off, it's hard to withdraw something that's been rejected 3 times. I think the White House, basically, what Schumer offered them was an authorization. And an authorization is very different than an appropriation. An appropriation is actual funding. There were authorizations made in the immigration bill back in 2006 or 2007 that Senator Schumer actually voted for, but those were never appropriated. So the funding was never put in place, for example, to build the wall. So the real issue here is whether or not money is going to be appropriated and whether or not the Democrats are willing to support that. And so the offer that he made was a symbolic one, but pretty meaningless in terms of addressing the issue.
It sounds like there's still a lot of bad blood on both sides.
Well, you know, I hope that changes. They should have learned a lesson. I think this attempt to shut down the government really was in response to pressure they were getting from their base. But what they found out is there are a lot of Democrat senators who didn't want to go along with that. And I think there's a broad consensus that we need to address DACA, that we need to do more on border security. And I'm hopeful that notwithstanding where their leadership may be in the Senate, that there are a number of Senate Democrats who would be willing to work with Republicans on a consensus bill that can get a result that actually can pass and get signed into law.
All right, Senator Thune, thank you very much.
Thanks, Neil.